horn approached the residence. However, as soon as the officer made himself known, Jimmy began crying out for help.
Police department, police department.
Hello, help,
Yes.
please.
Yeah, whatever it is, he did it.
Jimmy was found in the
Fake ass
basement
crying.
sobbing over his unresponsive wife's body. As he grieved, he continued performing CPR.
How long she been down? Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea?
Give me more than about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Oddly enough, Amy didn't have any significant injuries, except for a very faint mark near her jugular. By 8:57 p.m., more officers arrived along with several EMTs. They piled into the basement to take over Jimmy's life-saving efforts. Now that Jimmy had a moment to process what was going on, he dramatically ripped his shirt off and broke down on the basement floor. He was able to quickly compose himself and continued to observe the EMTs aiding Amy. Jimmy alternated between complete composure and emotional outbursts several times.
You want to come upstairs with me real quick? Okay.
As you can see, Jimmy seemed calm as he walked up the basement stairs, but as he entered the kitchen, he unleashed his wrath onto an unsuspecting bowl of potato chips. The officers weren't sure what to make of this erratic behavior, especially since they had no clue what led up to the discovery of Amy's body.
Did she make any statements at all?
No, dude, of course.
Jimmy gave the officers a quick summary of
Like
his
I said,
and
they was
Amy's
irritated
night.
at
At
each
around
other.
6:30 p.m., the couple dropped their daughter and her friend off at a nearby high school football game and then headed downtown for some drinks. While at a bar, they got into an argument and
Some
Amy ended up
drinks.
walking home alone while Jimmy drove home in their car. When Amy
She
got back
walked
home,
home
the arguing
alone.
continued, so he left her alone to cool off. He went upstairs and threw on the Jim Carrey film Ace Ventura. When it was time to pick up their daughter, he went to check on Amy again.
Why'd they have to add that?
I didn't hear anything, so I went back down to check on her.
Does Amy have a history of anything like this? Nothing in her background at all.
Ever.
Okay.
The officers found it strange that Amy would escalate things to this degree out of nowhere, but nobody seemed as shocked as Jimmy.
I'm hoping I wake up, dude.
Unfortunately for Jimmy, this was a nightmare that he wouldn't be waking up from. But suddenly, an EMT emerged from the basement with a glimmer of hope.
Huh? What?
Says she's fighting.
No.
The EMTs were able to
This
reestablish
nigga
a
not
faint pulse,
worried
so
at
Amy
all,
was
bro.
still
That's how
clinging
you
to
know
life.
he was trying
But
to
when
kill
Jimmy
her.
realized that his wife was
Did you really see what this man just did? He gave no fucks. Like none, not whatsoever. Nigga said, "How does this happen?" What?
still breathing, he seemed frustrated by this promising news. His reaction immediately set off red flags for the officers. Jimmy then left the room momentarily to grab a new shirt, and when he came back, he called his daughter Ashley to inform her of the emergency.
We had an emergency. Don't go anywhere. There's an emergency. Don't go anywhere. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Jimmy didn't want Ashley to panic over the phone, so he kept his composure and didn't share any details of what had happened. But right after that phone call, he called his parents and spilled his heart out.
Oh, I don't know what to do, Mom. I don't know what to do. Oh, this is terrible. I gotta talk to the cops.
Although Jimmy was crying his heart out, the officers spotted no moisture on his face at all. They decided to have him wait outside, away from the crime scene. Shortly after, Amy was placed on a stretcher and taken to the back of an ambulance. They rushed her to the Pro Medica Herrick Hospital just 2 minutes away.
2 minutes away.
The EMTs were finished in the basement, so the officers headed back inside to do further investigation. Now that the dust had settled, they immediately noticed something strange. The basement ceilings were very low, so low that they began to question the logistics of Jimmy's story. Amy was 5'6" and the basement ceiling wasn't much higher, roughly 7 feet. But rather than jumping to conclusions, the investigators decided to wrap things up for the night. The next morning, Officer Horn and his partner returned to the Allen household to ask Jimmy some more questions. They hoped to get a better understanding of what led up to the incident. According to Jimmy, the family started their day in high spirits by making breakfast
Jimmy
together
a bad
and getting
man.
Ashley ready for school.
Just listening to music and making lunch and breakfast, smile on her face.
At around 7:30 a.m., Jimmy left for work and Ashley left for school, while Amy stayed home. Jimmy decided to leave work early, so around 12:30 p.m., he came home and took a nap. Then, at 2:45 p.m., the school day was over and it was time to pick up Ashley.
Ashley had a friend over, Kayla, after school.
What's up,
Amy
buddy?
picked her up, and I was just kind of in bed. And they came here. She made everybody dinner. 6:30. We rolled out to take them to the game.
After a nice family dinner, everybody hopped in the car and drove to the Tecumseh High School for the football game. As mentioned before, Jimmy and Amy dropped off the girls and decided to head downtown to go bar hopping. They first went to Ember's Bar and Grill, then to JR's Hometown Grill and Pub shortly after. Investigators would later confirm this part of Jimmy's story by obtaining the security footage from JR's. Apparently, nothing seemed out of the ordinary until Jimmy brought up the idea of selling their house and moving down south. Since the family had just moved to Michigan from
Where they get
Florida
all that
1 year
information?
earlier,
Oh,
Amy
probably
was
from
not
talking to
fond
him.
of this idea. She began texting someone on her phone and became dismissive of Jimmy's comments.
She said a couple of times that, oh, that's not going to work. And she's normally positive and was sort of down and negative. And we started to disagree about it. And she's like, you know, I hope that works out for you. And I'm like, what do you mean, me? I'm talking about our life. Like, and this isn't hardcore planning. This is like,
She didn't want to go with you, so you
talking
decided to
about, you
kill
know,
her.
our future. And she just, well, I hope that works out for you.
And
Jimmy
she's still
said that this
breathing.
comment sparked an argument between the two. By the time they left the bar, things were very tense. Amy decided that she would rather walk home than sit with Jimmy any longer. This was also confirmed by this surveillance footage, which captured Amy
She
walking
deadass
down the
walked
street,
home.
heading in the direction of their house. Amy arrived home at 7:58 p.m. She grabbed an extension cord and then went down to the basement. At 8:05 p.m., Jimmy decided to go check on her.
She's petting Louie, one of our cats, and what the hell are you doing in the basement?
Apparently, Amy was angry at him for slamming the door in her face as they left the bar. But according to Jimmy, it was just an accident. He did forget to hold the door for her, but he didn't slam it intentionally. Amy didn't believe that it was an accident, so she started throwing insults at him, and the two proceeded
believe
to
that.
argue for about 10 minutes. Nothing good was coming from this argument, so Jimmy went back upstairs, leaving Amy in the basement with the extension cord. About 25 minutes later, at 8:40 p.m., Jimmy realized that it was time to pick up Ashley from the football game. Before he left, he went back to the basement to squash the beef with Amy.
And immediately do that and started, you know, check for a pulse. When I glanced down there, I saw there looked like a upturned kitty litter pail.
Huh.
Because I'm like, like I said, it was just so, just.
Sure.
The officer asked if there were any signs
It
that
was
something like
so-
this might happen, but Jimmy said that he could never have seen this coming.
You know, spent all night kind of thinking and playing back what triggered what was.
Has she ever
He
tried
did it, y'all.
anything like this before?
He did it.
Never had anything ever, like, we live a healthy lifestyle, we work out, we go rock climbing 3 times a week in Ann Arbor, we like cook meals at home, we grow our own vegetables out here, money trouble, no, I mean, this is like the pinnacle of, like, you know, best job I've ever had. I make great money. She's a stay-at-home mom. She takes care of the 5 cats, the pool, and is there for my daughter doing sports and activities.
Sure.
The officer then asked if he and his partner could do a more thorough search of the home, and Jimmy agreed. With the help of their new recruit, Louie,
Oh, man.
Jimmy's cat, the officer scoured every room in the household, hoping to find any clues that could explain last night's incident. They weren't able to find any bombshell evidence, but they did collect several items that belonged to Amy, including her computer and cell phone. Following their search, Officer Horn headed back outside to speak with Ashley. She was visibly shaken up by the incident, but the detectives needed to know if Amy and Jimmy had a history of violent altercations.
Were your mom and dad fighting at all yesterday that you recall
No, but everything was normal when I left.
when you left? Okay. Is there a history of the, like, fighting or arguing or anything like that? Nothing ever? Okay.
The officer also asked about Amy's state of mind, but Ashley said that even though her mom was a deeply introverted person, she had always been emotionally stable. This interview wasn't as fruitful as the officers had hoped, but shortly after, they were approached by several of Amy's family members. They said that Jimmy waited 14 hours to tell them about the incident. As soon as they heard the news,
14
they
hours
rushed
is
over to the
crazy.
police department because they had an abundance of useful information for the police. The investigators learned that back in 1997, when Amy was just 13, she had a son named
I was born in
Caleb. Her
1997.
parents looked after Caleb while she attended high school in Ocala, Florida. By the end of high school, she began dating Jimmy, who had no problem becoming a father figure to Caleb. When Amy was 19, they had Ashley, and from that point on, Amy stayed home to take care of the kids while Jimmy worked. However, according to Amy's family, this wasn't her choice. They believed that Jimmy was a controlling husband who didn't want Amy to become financially independent. He would monitor everything the family did, from their social media activity to what they were eating throughout the day. He would also discipline the kids if he believed they were misbehaving, frequently taking things too far. Whenever Amy stood up to Jimmy, her opinion didn't seem to matter. Whatever Jimmy wanted, Jimmy got. So when Caleb turned 17,
Jimmy
he
got it.
left to stay with his grandparents. Jimmy retaliated, telling Amy that she was no longer allowed to speak with her family, including Caleb. One of the last times
You
Caleb
said
saw
long as
his high
hell.
school